In today's lecture, we will be looking into the structure and nature of carbonyl group, right? And as we have discussed in the previous video lecture, that your aldehydes and ketones contain this carbonyl group, right? And since they contain this same carbonyl group, it is due to this carbonyl group that many of their chemical properties match or are similar, right? So once we are clear about the structure of functional group which is present in the organic compound, we can guess on its chemical reactivity, right? What kind of chemical reactions it will undergo, right? And as we have discussed in previous chapters also, when we studied the electronic structure of OH group in alcohols and phenols, right, that when we talk about structure of functional groups, right, what we are looking in this structure is your hybridization, right, your bond angle, right, then your bond length. Bond length has less things to play in this carbonyl group, right? Then we look at dipole moment, right? These are the things generally that we look at, right? And then we also see, we know that carbonyl group is a reactive group, right? We see why, the reason for the reactivity, of carbonyl group, right? What is the reason for the reactivity of carbonyl group? Once we are clear with the structure, we'll discuss its reactivity, right? And then we also compare this carbonyl group with this alkene, right? We'll compare carbon oxygen double bond with carbon carbon double bond, right? So now let's discuss about, first let's talk about hybridization. Before looking into hybridization, this is your carbonyl group, right, where in case of aldehydes you have one H, one R, right? R may be alkyl group or aryl group. In case of ketones, both are R, right? And it can be aliphatic, it can be aromatic. That is, both R in ketones can be aryl groups, or one can be aryl, the other can be alkyl, right? So this is something we have done in the previous lecture. Now, in this carbonyl group, this carbon is connected to oxygen via double bond. Now this double bond consists of one sigma bond and one pi bond, right? And this carbon is sp2 hybridized, right? We know that when we have sp2 hybridization, the molecule will acquire a trigonal planar shape, right? We have done this in chemical bonding, right? And so this molecule, since it is, the carbon atom is sp2 hybridized, so molecule would be planar, right, because of sp2 hybridization. Now if you look at this, your oxygen has high electronegativity and carbon has less electronegativity, right? So based on that, your pi electron cloud will shift towards oxygen. We'll discuss that when we discuss the nature of this bond, right? So let's discuss about hybridization first. In order to discuss hybridization, we need to know the electronic configuration. So we'll be writing down the electronic configuration of carbon in excited state, right? Why in excited state? Because we know that carbon is tetrahedral in nature. In order to explain its tetrahedral nature, we write down the excited state electronic configuration of carbon, right? You can check my video lecture on the tetrahedral nature of carbon that we have done in chemical bonding, right? So let's look at the hybridization. The hybridization of carbon in excited state would be 1s2, 2s2, 2px1, right, 2py1, and this would be 1s2, 2s1, right, 2pz1, right? This is your electronic configuration of carbon, excited state electronic configuration of carbon. Now as I said, it is sp2 hybridized. That means one s and 2p orbital will mix and merge, that is, they hybridize to give rise to a set of new hybrid orbitals which are sp2 hybrid orbitals, right? 1s and 2p will mix and merge, right, to give you 3 set of sp2 hybrid orbitals. sp2 hybrid orbitals. Right? Now this carbon atom has 3 sp2 hybrid orbitals. Right? What about oxygen atom? Oxygen atom will not hybridize. Right? Oxygen atom will use its orbitals to form bond with the sp2 hybrid orbitals of your oxygen atom. Right? sp2 hybrid orbital of oxygen atom and one orbital 2pz, you can see it's unhybridized, right? And this will also take part in bonding, right? So oxygen, if we talk about oxygen, the electronic configuration of oxygen is 1s2, 2s2, 2px2, 2py1, 2pz1, right? So oxygen can use its 2 orbitals, right, 2p orbitals in order to form bond with hybrid and unhybrid orbitals of oxygen carbon atom, right? We'll see that how. So this is your carbon, right? That has, we know from here, it has 3 sp2 hybrid orbitals, right? It has 3 sp2 hybrid orbitals. One is this sp2, one would be this, right, and one would be this. I am showing only the bigger lobes here, and one is unhybridized, right? This we also need to show this orbital, right? This is your 2pz. Right? And if we talk about oxygen, oxygen has, you can see it has one filled orbital, 2s orbital is filled, 2px orbital is filled. It can use these 2 orbitals in order to form bond, right? So it will use one of its orbital, right, to form bond with this sp2 hybrid orbital, like this, oxygen, right? One bond is formed by overlapping of 2p orbital of oxygen and sp2 hybrid orbital of carbon atom, which is your one sigma bond, right? Now you have the other orbital, the 2pz orbital, which is this, right? Then you have these 2 which are filled orbitals, right, which will not take part in bonding, right? So these 2, now we have to understand, right, based on what all we have seen here. There is one sigma bond which is explained by overlapping between sp2 hybrid orbital of carbon and p orbital and this 2p orbital of one of the 2p orbital of oxygen atom, right? Unhybridized 2p orbital of oxygen atom will overlap with sp2 hybrid orbital of carbon atom, right, to form this sigma bond, right? It will give rise to this sigma bond, right? Now from where this pi bond came, pi bond will form, you can see this one 2pz orbital is unhybridized, right? This is the one, right? This orbital is shown here. Now you have one 2pz orbital on oxygen also, right? This is the one, say this is the one, right? 2pz. Now these 2pz, now these 2p orbitals will undergo sidewise overlapping, like it happens normally in pi bond formation, right, to form bond between carbon and oxygen, and this bond would be a pi bond. We know which is a weaker bond because of sidewise overlapping. And why it's a weaker bond? Because sidewise overlapping occurs to a lesser extent compared to head-on overlapping, right, which will form a sigma bond. Here this is your head-on overlapping between sp2 hybrid orbital and p orbital of oxygen. So this forms a sigma bond, right? Now overlapping occurs between these 2 like this, right? This sidewise overlapping will form this pi bond, this head-on overlapping will form this sigma bond, right? So you should be clear about the hybridization concepts to understand this structure. Right, I hope this is clear how sigma bond and pi bond formation takes place in your carbonyl carbon. Right, now as we know that we have this in case of aldehydes, this would be your hydrogen always, right? CHO is aldehydic group, this would be R, and this R can be aliphatic or aromatic, right? In case of ketones, both these would be R, aliphatic or aromatic, right? Now these alkyl groups, right? These alkyl groups is forming bond with this carbon atom, right? When it forms bond with this carbon atom, it is actually forming bond with the sp2 hybrid orbital of carbon atom, which is this, right? These bonds represent these two sp2 hybrid orbitals, which are formed by the hybridization of 1s and 2p orbitals, right? One sp2 hybrid orbital is used in formation of a sigma bond between carbon and oxygen by this overlapping, right? The other two hybrid orbitals will form bond with alkyl groups or hydrogen atoms, right? In case of formaldehyde, you have both hydrogen atoms, right? So both these sp2 hybrid orbitals will undergo overlapping with 1s orbital of hydrogen atoms, right? Whereas in case of alkyl groups, we know that in alkyl groups carbon is sp3 hybridized, right? So in case of alkyl groups, this is in case of hydrogen atom. In case of alkyl groups, we have this carbon atom, which is sp3 hybridized, right? Now this sp3 hybrid orbital, this blank sp3 hybrid orbital, right, will undergo hybridization with this sp2 hybrid orbital of this carbon atom of carbonyl group, right? In case of aldehyde or ketone, that has an R group, right? And the other, in case of aldehydes, the other sp2 hybrid orbital will always undergo hybridization with the hydrogen atom, right? And this one will undergo hybridization with sp3 hybrid orbital of your methyl group, right? And in case of ketones, even this, right? In case of ketones, even this sp2 hybrid orbital will undergo overlapping with the other sp2 hybrid orbital of the other methyl group, which is this one, right? So these bonds, now we are clear with these bonds, how these bonds are formed, what kind of overlapping is taking place, right? I'll repeat. These two sp2 hybrid orbitals of carbon atom will undergo overlapping with 1s orbital of hydrogen atom in case of aldehydes, right? And in case of formaldehyde, you have both hydrogen atoms, no R group. So this orbital, this sp2 hybrid orbital will also undergo overlapping with 1s orbital of hydrogen atom, right? So same kind of overlapping. In case of ketones, we have both R groups, right? Both are these kind of alkyl groups in which carbon atom is sp3 hybridized. So sp3 hybrid orbital of carbon atom of alkyl group will undergo overlapping with these sp2 hybrid orbital of carbonyl carbon to form these two sigma bonds, right? These are sigma bonds. Since this is your head-on overlapping, so this will result into a sigma bond. This is also sigma bond, right? I hope this part is clear. Now, since I said that this carbon is sp2 hybridized, right? So the shape of carbonyl, all this carbon, this oxygen, right, and these two sp2 hybrid orbital, they all lie in the same plane, right? They all lie in the same plane. and if you want to see it, it's like this carbon, right, and this R. Right, all these are in the same plane, right, and since it is planar molecule, sp2 hybridized, so bond angle would be bond angle between these and these, it would be 120 degree. Remember the bond angle, right, bond angle is 120 degree, and all these lie in same plane. I'll just repeat. Your R, let's say this R dash, R dash, carbon and oxygen, all are in one plane, all are coplanar, they are in one plane, right. Now since they all are in one plane, right, and we'll just discuss that later. So till this point we are now clear about what kind of hybridization and bonding is taking place, and what is bond angle and the type of bonds that are taking place, right. And this structure is confirmed that this is planar and bond angle is 120. This is confirmed by experiments like spectroscopic studies, where you take the picture of the molecule. Spectroscopic studies means where you take the picture of the molecule, right, to know its structure, right. So this structure is confirmed by your spectroscopic studies, right. This structure is confirmed by your spectroscopic studies. I hope all these points are clear. Now we are done with the structure of carbonyl group. Now let's look into the nature of carbonyl group, right. Let's look into the nature of carbonyl group now. I'll just take this off. Right, so we are done with hybridization, bond angle, right, structure. Now we'll look at the bond length. Has nothing to do much here. And bond length, if you want to see the bond length, it's for this bond length, carbon oxygen bond length, this is 1.23 angstrom, and its dissociation bond energy is 741 kilojoules per mole, right. Now let's look into the nature of this bond, right, nature of this bond. When we talk about nature of bond, right, bond can be polar or non-polar or ionic, right. Here in this case, since this is a covalent bond, it cannot be ionic. So this bond, right, this bond which is formed by your overlapping of sp2 hybrid orbital of carbon and p orbital of oxygen atom, this bond is your polar bond, right. So nature of bond is this carbon double bond oxygen bond is polar in nature, right. This bond is polar in nature. And why it is polar in nature? Because we know that the electronegativity of oxygen is high, right. Because of electronegativity difference, electronegativity of oxygen is high, right, high than carbon, compared to carbon, right. Since the electronegativity of this oxygen is high, so what it will do is, we have this pi bond, right, and this pi electron cloud, the pi electron cloud of this pi bond is both above and below the plane of this molecule, or it's above and below this bond, CO bond. You have it above and you have it below, right. And now since the electronegativity of this oxygen is higher, so what it will do is, electronegativity, what is electronegativity? Ability to attract the electron pair towards itself, right. So what this oxygen will do, since it has higher electronegativity, it will pull the electron cloud of this pi bond towards itself, right? So when this electron cloud would be pulled towards oxygen atom, this oxygen atom will acquire a small negative charge, right? This oxygen atom will acquire a small negative charge, and carbon atom will acquire a small positive charge, right? This will acquire a small negative charge, and this will acquire a small positive charge, right? And its electron cloud, the electron cloud of this pi bond would now be distorted towards your oxygen atom, right? And how it will look like? It will somewhat look like this. The electron cloud, if you make, it should be more towards, it's somewhat like this. This represents the electron cloud. So I've drawn a bigger circle. That means electron cloud is more towards oxygen atom, right? Giving it a slight negative charge, and carbon will acquire a slight positive charge, right? So we are done with the nature. What kind of nature is what is the nature of this carbon oxygen bond? It's polar, right? And why it is polar? Because of electronegativity difference between carbon and oxygen, right? Since electronegativity of oxygen is higher, so it will pull the electron cloud of pi bond towards itself, giving it a slight negative charge, and to carbon it will give a slight positive charge, right? You can see the electron cloud is distorted more towards oxygen atom, right? Now since this bond is polar, right? Since this bond is polar, so it will have a dipole moment, right? The polar bonds generally have dipole moment, right? So this carbonyl bond has a dipole moment, right? And the value of dipole moment of this is it's around 2.3 to 2.8 Dev, right? So we are clear with the dipole moment now. Since the bond is polar, right? Since the bond is polar, let me just put this. Right? So polar bond has dipole moment, right? Which is dipole moment, which is 2.3 to 2.8 Dev, right? Which is high, right? And we say that the polarity, that this dipole moment value is due to this polarity, but this polarity cannot give it this high value of dipole moment, right? So what we say is that this structure, this carbonyl group exists in two resonance forms, right? So in you have two resonance forms, like this. These are two resonance forms, right? I hope till this point it is clear, right? So the resonance forms also explains the high dipole moment value of your polar bond. Alone electronegativity difference or this polar nature of this bond cannot explain the high value of dipole moment, right? So I hope this is clear. Now let's look at the high reactivity of this carbonyl carbon, right? So now since we are clear with the structure and nature, now let's look at the reason for its high reactivity. Since this, okay, let's first look at this structure. Since we are doing structure, this electronegativity difference has given this carbon a slight positive charge. Now since this carbon is positive charge, it can easily be attacked by negative reagents, right? That is nucleophiles, right? The presence of this positive charge, positive carbon in aldehydes and ketones makes it reactive, right? Because now it can easily be attacked by your negative reagents, which are nucleophiles, right? So the polar nature of carbonyl group, right? Since this is polar, so the polar nature of carbonyl group explains its high rate of reaction. Why it reacts at a faster rate? Because it has a positive carbon which can easily invite nucleophiles to attack it, right? So positive charge on carbon invites the negatively charged groups or ions to attack this center, thereby making it highly reactive, right? I'll just write it over here. So the presence of positively charged carbon invites negatively charged ions or groups, which we call as nucleophiles, right, to react. This explains high reactivity. Of carbonyl carbon, right? The second is, what could be the second point? In the structure we have seen that this carbonyl carbon is planar, right? It is like this. It's like my hand. It is like this, right? All bonds, one is here, one bond is carbon, the other is oxygen, and two are like this, right? So all these are in one plane, right? Now since they are in one plane, this carbonyl carbon can be attacked from above, it can be attacked from below, right? Since it can be attacked from two sides, it is easy for a reagent to reach this structure, right? So that adds to the reactivity of carbonyl carbon, right? So we say that as the carbonyl carbon is planar, there is possibility for the attacking species, right, to attach themselves to the carbonyl carbon from above or below the plane of carbonyl group, right? So let me just take this down, right? Since we know that your carbonyl carbon is planar, there is chance of it getting attacked from above and below the plane containing carbonyl group, right? So this planar structure adds to the reactivity of your carbonyl carbon, right? So I repeat, two reasons. First is the electronegativity difference creates positively charged carbon, right? That due to which it invites your negatively charged ions, groups, or what we call them as nucleophiles, right, to react. The second is its structure, right? First is its nature, which is polar, due to which it is reactive. The second is its structure. It is planar, so there are chances that reagents can reach it or attack it from above and below the plane of the carbonyl group, right? That adds to the reactivity of your carbonyl carbon. Now let's compare it with the carbon-carbon double bond, right? Carbon-carbon double bond, we know that there is no electronegativity difference between carbon and carbon, right? Whereas if we talk about this, there is electronegativity difference between these two, right? And these are mostly the carbonyl, this alkenes are mostly attacked by electrophiles, right? Because of high electron density of pi bond. Whereas in carbonyl carbon, these are attacked by nucleophiles because of positive charge on this carbon atom, right? So these are some differences, right? So it will undergo electrophilic addition and this carbonyl carbon will undergo nucleophilic addition, right? I hope all this is clear. Thanks.